Welcome to Agency Ascend, the podcast where we explore journeys, strategies, and successes of independent insurance agencies within the Coverica Agency Alliance. I'm Chad Brummett, the COO here at Coverica Agency Alliance, and with me today I have Chris Lacey, our managing partner, and Mr. James Spencer with Insurance DFW. We are excited to actually introduce a brand new series today called Agency Spotlights. It's an opportunity for us to highlight members like James and his wonderful staff and actually understand a little bit about what you do, what's made your agency successful, how you got into the industry, just an overall opportunity for you to share your greatness with us and all of our listeners.
I thought I was doing the intro. I guess not. No. So I just wanted to add, James and his brother West was actually, I believe, the second agency for myself to recruit back when I was in, what was that? It was 2000. I think it was still 2017 is when you guys came over. I know that the relationship between the two of you guys has been kind of crazy. Been to business together and everything. I really am more interested in seeing kind of where you guys started. Hey, how did you work with your brother? Like, how did that whole thing start? If you could share a little bit about that for our audience and viewers.
Well, we were both working for a different insurance agency before, and every year they would change the comp plan. So I would have to sell more than I did the year before just to make the same amount of money.
Did they throw life at you too?
No.
That was before that time?
That was before that time, yeah. So he and I got together and we said, hey, we need to find something else to do. This is just getting too much. And it was getting too corporate-y. And so I couldn't afford to take a pay decrease. I was the number 2 agent in the entire state of Texas for that agency. Wow. And I couldn't afford to take a pay decrease. So he looked at different carriers to start with. He decided to go with Nationwide as a captive agent. They recruited him. So I gave my boss a 2 years notice. So Wes
you gave him a 2 year notice?
I gave her a 2 years notice. But he left, it was called Titan Insurance. It used to be Eastwood Insurance.
Yep.
Eastwood sold to Nationwide. They became Titan Insurance. He left Titan Insurance in 2012 to become part of this Nationwide agency program. If I remember correctly, he was the only one of the 50 students in that class that actually graduated and still, operates today. The other 49 are gone.
Oh, wow.
But for 2 years, he built went through their program. And the plan was once he graduated the program, I would immediately leave Titan as well and join him over at the agency. And that's what we wound up doing. So I would tell my customers for 2 years, like, hey, I'm leaving 2 years from now, a year and a half from now, a year from now, 6 months from now, whatever. My cell phone number was on my business card since 2008. And I said, hey, I'll have a non-compete. I can't call you guys, but if you want to call me, you can. And a lot of them would call and try to come over.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I walk into your office and you'd have clients call. And this is an odd situation. Obviously, you've built relationships with all of your clients. So anybody who's listening to this is not the direction I advise. However, if you're like James, you develop that personal relationships. I remember you would call up. He says, you've already asked me this 5 times. You click and hang up. And then he'd call you right back. And then you'd be like, I told you I can't do this. You need to do it this, this, and this. I don't know if it was yours or Wes's customer, but they would call in and you guys were just like, hey, we've already talked about this. And they knew it, but you built that relationship with them to where you could have that. And I remember your brother saying to me, plain as day, he says, I want to have a relationship with our customers and that they know that we're taking care of them. You had some that would worry about different things. And you say, hey, we got you covered. Don't worry about it. Go about your day. You're covered. That was something that, as I was walking in, because I was new in the industry, didn't know much of anything. I'm watching you guys. I'm just like, yeah, that seems the way. I like that.
Yeah, I keep everything completely straightforward with my customers. Like, customers are like, they're completely baffled that somebody talks to them the way I talk to them. So, for example,
unapologetic. You're the insurance expert.
Exactly. But so, for example, this may have been the conversation you overheard. I don't know. But I would have a customer who would call. Well, this multiple times. You'll have customers who call you like all the time for the same thing. It's like every 2 months or 1 month. They're like, hey, can you get my rate lower? And I'm like, hey, I shopped you already. Like, you're in the best spot, right? Whenever one of those would say, I'm going to leave you. Like, I have no choice. I've got to leave you. And they're really just, they're not really being truthful. They're just trying to see if you really do have another deal for them out there to get them something lower. And I said, if you leave me, you will make me money. And they said, I'm sorry, what? And I said, it's economics 101. It's called the law of opportunity costs. The time that I spend with you every single month talking to you is time I won't have to spend talking to you if you leave me. And during that time, I'm going to sell policies to customers who aren't going to bug me every single month. And so I'm going to make money next month in the hour that I'd be talking to you. I'm going to make money in the month after that in the hour I'd be talking to you.
Time value of money.
Yes. And so if you leave me, I will not lose a dime. I will actually make a lot more money than I'm making now. So you can either stay with me and be with the best agent that I've personally ever met and have that guy as your agent, or you can leave me and I'll make a bunch more money. Or sorry, I'll say you can leave me and have the like I said, the best agent that I've personally ever met, and stop calling me every single month for this. Or you can go and I'll make a bunch more money if you do. And I don't recall a single time where any of those people left. They just stopped calling. They got there, as my old roommate used to say, you're going to get you some act right. So they got themselves some act right, and they quit bugging me every single month.
But that directness, right? I mean, that's I'm sure what enabled people to actually follow you when you're giving them that 2-year notice, that year and a half notice, right? Yeah. I'm sure that's what enabled them to carry over when you went to Nationwide. So how long were y'all at Nationwide?
We were at Nationwide from January 1st, 2014, if you don't count the 2 years he was in the program. So we started our own agency live January 1st, 2014. And we left Nationwide and went independent May of 2018. So 4 years and 5 months, 4 months, something like that.
Oh, okay. And what was kind of the driving factor for y'all actually making that transition from the captive into the independent space?
Well, Nationwide had offered agents to be able to buy their own books. And that didn't make sense to a lot of insurance agents. In fact, most of the Nationwide agents did not buy their own book. Because, like, if I were to purchase an agency, I would buy an income-producing asset. And yes, I'd be making payments toward it, but I'd be buying something that's going to bring in more income, new revenue for us, right? But when Nationwide said you can buy your own book, that didn't make sense to a lot of other agents, because they were like, why would I pay for something that's already, it'll be bringing me the exact same amount of money it's bringing me now, but now I've got a loan that I'm having to pay on top of that. That doesn't make any sense. And to my brother's credit, he sat down and did the math. And only 3 agents in the entire state of Texas took the deal. And the math was, he said, hey, we're closing 20% of the calls that come in currently with Nationwide. He said, if we go independent and get contracts with a few other carriers, if we double that number to 40%, then in 2 years, all the new business we're writing and all the renewal business we're writing will pay for, or all the renewal business that's renewing, it will pay for the loan easily in 2 years.
Yeah, because your bind rate's going up. Your your close rate with everything else, you're able to bring in more revenue.
Yes, if we double our close rate. What wound up happening is with just 4 carriers, we quadrupled our close rate.
Man.
So it wasn't even like 8 or 9 months before we broke even with that monthly note.
I think that makes a lot of sense, because I remember talking to him, and he was obviously very inquisitive, as you both are. Which is great. Being a student of the industry and really learning those things is what you really want to see from our existing members or any insurance agency that's out there, because they become greater client advocates. But he was asking, what are y'all's close? And I'll take a quote from my dad, who was like, well, I 100%. And I go, well, how do you figure? I think Wes asked him, it's like, how do you figure? He says, I only quote business I know I'm going to win. Mm-hmm. That's the other extreme. But going from 20% close rate, which on a captive side is not bad. That's not bad at all. In fact, that's usually better than what you see in a lot of the other ones. And so to then go from that to the independent, now quadrupling that, holy cow, y'all are on a whole different level. What would you say has been the greatest change in kind of how y'all's dynamic working together as brothers, coming from the captive to the independent, or is there just more of it?
Just more of it, yeah.
Yeah.
So is it really just the power of choice that opened up that quadrupling of the close rate? Was it that simple, or was it just, did y'all have to change the way you sold, the way you educated?
No,
clients?
I mean the way. So we only got contracted with carriers who have the broadest coverage. So on the home insurance side, they've got the seepage and leakage coverage. They have the sewer backup coverage. They have the foundation coverage. We are absolutely a coverage agency. I have converted so many clients from being a price client to a coverage client because this is your home we're talking about. Why are you gambling your home for a couple $100 a year, even $1,000 a year, $2,000 a year? Why are you gambling your home against that? That doesn't make sense. And so I have converted customers who are paying less to switching over to paying more because they're leaving a carrier that doesn't cover things. It's written in their contract they don't cover these things, right? To moving them over to a carrier that does. And so the vast majority of the time, yes, I'm saving them money. So hilariously, Standard Insurance, they advertise all the time on TV and radio. A lot of the clients that I've taken from them, so Standard Insurance, and you can read this in their contract, they only cover one of the 5 types of water damage, which is water coming from above. So if the roof blows off, water gets in, they're picking that up. They do not cover sudden and accidental discharge of water. They do not cover seepage and leakage. They do not cover sewer backup coverage. Nobody covers flood on a home policy, but that's the 5th one. But I'm telling this story to a customer who's got Standard Insurance, and she said, "Oh, I know." She said the February freeze of 2021, she said we had our pipes burst, cost us $60,000 to fix the damage that the water caused. We just thought no home insurance covered that. I'm like, no, they cover it. Just Standard doesn't cover it. Yeah. But the reason why I said it's wild, start that conversation. Sorry, I'm sounding like Mike Sterlacey going like a huge tangent to get back to the point.
I'm partial to him. It's all right.
Right. So it was like I actually saved them a ton of money. Like my policy was less expensive and it had so much more coverage than what they had on it before.
That comes from understanding the policies being like the certified risk management approach. Like, are you actually advocating? And I know you and your brother have always really pushed advocating for the client and understanding that. What would you say was one of y'all's hardest obstacles to overcome, either recently or in the past, that you gleaned the most information from?
I don't know if we really have. Like, I mean, nothing has felt like any kind of obstacle at all in the last,
Okay. Let's make it very clear. How did y'all navigate the last 2 years of this hard market? What have y'all been doubling down on to be able to focus?
That's easy enough. Because again, customers are just wondering what in the world's going on. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I tell other insurance agents is, in fact, I belong to a networking group, and I said, so I visited one of the other chapters, and I said, hey, if any of you have ever called your insurance agent and asked them, why did my rates go up? And they replied back, because there was a general rate increase in the area, I'm going to steal that customer. Because let me rephrase what you just said. They said, why did rates go up? And you replied, because rates went up. Because that's all a general rate increase in the area is, right? So that person's going to hang up the phone and shop. It's like you told them nothing. And I said, if you want better answers, call a better agent. And I sat down. And the room's like, ah. So I had just come up with that right on the spot. Like, I'd never used that line before in my life. And I came up with it right there, and the room just went crazy. And so, in fact, a couple of them came up to me afterwards. And they were like, because that chapter already had somebody in the group that did insurance. And they were like, hey, can I call you? They're like, I want a better agent. I'm like, that's funny because this person's been in the group for, 8 years or something, right? Sorry, got sidetracked there. So during, say, 2023, 2024, when they were asking for why in the world did rates go up 40% in 23, why did they go up again 40% in 2024? I would sit down and explain to them things that they'd never thought about, right? Because I'm an agency owner, I can see losses, see loss ratios. Right. Because we talk to other agents in the area and we talk to the carrier reps, what do loss ratios look like in this area, that kind of thing. We know the losses are there. So it's not just like, hey, and again, even that answer is too vague. Like, well, the losses are higher, so your rates are higher.
Had 4 100-year storms in the last year.
Right. So, even that, I still wouldn't. So what I would say is, I would take auto insurance, for example. I'd say, hey, look, I have, in this, if you know how big of a math nerd I am, you would know that this is not an exaggeration. I have sent my mechanic over 600 customers since I met him in 2009. Okay. And historically, and out of those 600 customers that I've sent him, exactly 0 of them have ever called me and said they found somebody cheaper than him. He's batting 1,000. He wins every single time. I said, so what? I said, before COVID, if I sent in somebody who, let's say you had a 2018 Kia Sorento and you needed an engine for it because yours went out. He would go find an engine at the junkyard with 60,000 miles on it for $500. He'd charge you $500 to drop your old one and put in your new one. $1,000 later, you've got an engine. So would you rather buy a used engine for $1,000 or go buy a brand new one for $6,000? Right?
Yeah.
You could put in 6 used ones for what. And again, the reason why he was smoking everybody, because if you went and found a used engine anywhere else, it was going to be $3,500. So he was just absolutely annihilating anybody else out there. I said, what happens now is if I called him for that same 2018 Kia Sorento, there's only going to be 3 of those engines in the entire country, and they're going to be at $2,800.
Yeah.
So because his brother runs a network of junkyards across the entire country, so he just gets on there and finds him, the engine, sells it to him for whatever. But now there is no inventory.
Well, because COVID ate up
depleted
everything.
that inventory, right? Because nobody was buying new anymore because they weren't making new. The supply chains were disrupted. They're only buying used. So how that runs over into insurance is if you wrecked your 2018 Kia Sorento, you had a front end collision and we got to put an engine in there, the insurance company's not going to buy you a brand new engine because you didn't have a brand new engine in there to begin with, right? They're going to find you that used engine. So now the insurance company is going to go from paying $500 for that used engine to $2,800 for that used engine, not including labor.
Right.
Okay. So what that has caused is that's caused total losses to go up probably 4x what they were pre-2020. We're now totaling 4 times the number of cars that we would have, same collisions, but we're totaling 4x what we were because prices have come up so much.
That's before you get into the supply chain issues and everything else.
That's one right there that I would tell them about, because I had a customer this happened to in it was I think December of 2023. Yeah, she had just bought a 2023 Kia. Yeah, it was a Sorento as well. 2023 Kia Sorento.
How many Sorrentos do you insure?
No.
Do we need to get them a hit with a sponsorship or something?
Kia, KIA stands for Killed in Action. So,
oh my gosh! Well, now we can't.
So
that's like Ford found on road dead. But.
No, I don't know. I've never heard that. I pulled that from my. But anyways,
Killed in Action.
Yeah, okay. No. I mean, obviously, I've heard Killed in Action. I've just never heard anybody put Kia together with Killed in Action. Anyhow, so she calls me. She got hit in the rear end. The tailgate was damaged and the rear bumper was damaged. $7,500 worth of damage. But the tailgate was on international back order. So this is another thing I explained to the customers. I'm like, look, what are the insurance company's options? It was on international back order with no ETA on when this thing was even going to come in, right? So the insurance company's options are you run out of rental car in 30 days, or with some carriers, they give you unlimited rental car if you use one of their partner facilities, right? But then they've got to factor that into what if it's 6 months before that tailgate comes in and you're spending, let's say it's costing them $40 a day times 30 days, $1,200 a month times 6 months, $7,200 just in rental car in 6 months. Like, they're not going to do that, right? And that's because they don't even know if it's going to be here in 6 months. What if it's 2 years before it gets here, right? They don't know, so they're not going to do that. So that's not an option. Another option is to put you back in the damaged car and let you drive around in that until the tailgate comes in.
Happen.
That's not going to happen. That's a liability issue, right? So their only option is to total this thing. So this car has $7,500 of the damage. They cut her a check for $30,000 because they had to total a car with only $7,500 of damage. We're in territory we've never been in before. And that's what's driving these large losses. So for that agent that told them, your rate's going up because of a general rate increase, my answer was what you just got to hear.
Right.
And I would give them a couple of examples of that.
Well, you're helping the customer or the consumer, because we're all consumers of the same product as well. You're helping us understand, hey, it's more to it than just a simple dollar going up. I constantly see those ads now that says, 80% of your premiums are going to agents. I'm like, which carrier is this?
Right.
I would love to be part of that. Tell me where.
Yes.
Because we don't see that. And so it's helping the consumers understand across the board what is actually going on. And that's why we became insurance professionals. You're looking at, I don't understand any of this policy language, so let me join that so I can get in to figure it out. So that way I can help other people understand what it is that they need to do.
Well, yeah, it's breaking down that education to a level, right, that actually makes it personal.
Right.
Because anybody can share the numbers.
Right.
But when we put the anecdotes, you put that story, it drives it home, right?
Right.
And that's really what goes. So over these last couple of hard markets, what has that actually done for y'all's agency?
I mean, the customers stay. They stay at a much higher retention rate than other agencies. They also send me tons of business. In 2023, I probably said no to close to 300 referrals because I was explaining to my renewal. Here was the logic behind that, and that we needed to hire. Yes, we should. But anyways.
And you did.
We did, yes. So one of the things was I was explaining to all of my existing customer base. I would tell my existing customers who are trying to refer me business out, I'm like, look, I'm faced with a decision here. I can either help my current customers navigate this going through here and ignore the new business, or I can take on new business and ignore my existing customer base. Which would you rather me do? And they're like, well, I'm glad you're doing it this way. My funniest story that I had was I had a customer call me and she said, hey, I was having dinner with my sister last night. I haven't seen her in 6 months. And she was telling me how much her auto insurance was going up. So I want you to quote her. And I said, wait a second. You haven't seen your sister in 6 months. And the dinner topic was auto insurance? I'm like, I want you to pause and focus on that for a second. That's how bad insurance has gotten, is you haven't seen your sister in 6 months and auto insurance is the topic at dinner, right? I said, unfortunately, though, I am at capacity. I said, I can't, I really don't have time to call your sister. I said, I don't mean this in a mean way. I was like, but truly, I said, there is no room at the inn. I do not have a manger that your sister can stay in. Unfortunately, I just can't call her. I just don't have the time to take on new clients right now. I said, but what I will do for you is if you're willing to give up your slot, I will take on your sister as a new client. And her reply was, I'm sorry, I don't love my sister that much. I'll tell her she's got to find another agent. So she owes me over her own sister. So like I said, that was the funniest story that came out of the COVID times.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. But I'm still trying to wrap my head around turning away 300 potential clients.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a unicorn of a pipeline that most agencies out there would kill for, right?
I know. And it's because of, a lot of that would come from those conversations. They were like, no agent, I'm, 40, 50, 60, 70, 75 years old, whatever. And nobody has ever bothered to explain to me the things that you explained to me. And then that would stick with them. And because everybody was complaining about insurance, they'd be like, you need to call my agent because my agent is way better than whatever it is you're, getting answers from elsewhere.
Obviously, you've got this phenomenal referral network, right, that you're batting them away with.
Right.
How else are you out there getting new opportunities? Because like Chris mentioned, you've hired, so I'm assuming there's now room at the inn.
Yes, but we hired a commercial producer. We didn't hire personalized producers, so
you're still full there.
But are you still hiring for personalized producer?
Hiring a personalized producer. We
There you go.
have talked to a guy that we're probably going to bring on hopefully next week.
That's cool.
So he'll be taking a lot of those because I still I have brought on more new business and I don't. It's like I don't have a ton of time to do that, but I'd love to train somebody else to do things the way that I do them. And hopefully that they'll learn and be able to do that.
So is the referrals enough, or do y'all advertise out there to try to fill his pipeline up?
We have never done any advertising in the 11 years we've been an insurance agency. We don't even have a website, so you can't. If you Google us, you'll be able to leave a Google review if you want, but you can't click on our website because it doesn't.
I'm still amazed that you survived this long without a website.
That's mind blowing.
It's just when people talk to me and they hear me and how I talk to the customers, again at the risk of sounding arrogant, like they just know they're on the phone with somebody different.
No, man, toot that horn. I mean.
So on the side of the agency, I'm impressed. On the side of the consumer is where I would spend my thoughts a little bit differently. Because one of the things when you're marketing to a niche product market, and you'll see this obviously in the commercial side, is when your customers Google you, they want to see that you have that expertise. So I know you built it based off of referrals, so they're contacting you. They know what they're getting into. They're like, yeah, this guy knows his stuff. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no, that's the crazy thing. So we back when we did have a website, I would get commercial clients who would call, and I have a broker over at Burns & Wilcox, a guy named Jordan Muckway, great producer or great broker. Love the guy. He says that my close ratio with him is 98%. So he said whenever I call him, it doesn't matter who he's on the phone with, he will hang up the phone with them and he'll take my phone call because he knows if I'm, getting a quote on a deal, he's going to bind it.
Yeah.
He said, I don't know. The other agents are probably south of 20%, south of 15%. But I close everything I touch. And so back whenever I would get customers who would find us on Google, it did not matter that we didn't have a website. They were just Googling, commercial insurance agent near me. There were hardly any reviews on, Spencer Insurance at all. But for whatever reason, they'd pick up the phone. And within minutes of being on the phone with me, they would immediately recognize that they were on the phone with somebody who knew what they were doing. Most insurance agents are terrified of commercial.
Yeah.
And a lot of them don't know what they're doing. If you knew what kind of a math nerd I was, when I say 90% of policies that come across my desk on commercial policies are written incorrectly, that's legit. 9 out of 10 policies that I get are written incorrectly. And so I will, I tell Jordan and anybody else that asks about it, I said I convert probably 98% of idiots into not idiots. And what I mean by idiots into not idiots, they'll call me and say, I just want a piece of paper that says I have insurance because I have a homeowner that says they want a proof of coverage, but like I haven't had a claim in 12 years and I'm never going to have a claim. So why would I even need a real piece of paper? Besides, insurance companies just deny everything anyways. I've heard all my buddies, they've had claims and they don't get paid. I'm like, I'll tell them exactly what I just told you guys. I'm like, look, 90%, that's 9 out of every 10 commercial policies that come across my desk are written incorrectly, which means 9 out of 10 claims should be denied.
Right.
It's called material misrepresentation. You lied on the application and
you get popped
Yes. And so I'll tell them, I said, a bunch of your buddies probably bought their insurance on next.com or hiscox.com or Byberg. Nothing against those websites, but you got to tell the truth the whole way through.
You got to tell the truth, and you have to know what you're actually applying for.
Because here's what's very common. Let's say, for example, if you go to nextinsurance.com or whatever, they don't sell insurance to roofers. So if you're a roofer and you're listening and you have insurance with Next Insurance, you don't have insurance. You lied on the application. Because I've tried to buy an insurance and said I was a roofer, and it says, call one of our partner number. Here's our phone number. Call one of our partners, right? So what happens is whenever it does that, the roofer will hit the back button and say, well, what happens if I say I'm a general contractor? Then you change to general contractor. But so then you'll get through and think you have a policy when you don't, because pretty much 100% of what you do is roofing.
Yeah, but you can show to your customers.
You can show that piece of paper to your customers that you have it. But if you check your policy, and please do go check your policy, in the list of exclusions, there will be a roofing exclusion in your policy. You're a roofing company with a roofing exclusion on your insurance policy, which means your insurance policy is completely useless. The most common thing I see contractors do wrong when they're going through that application is it'll say, do you use subcontractors? And they'll say yes. And then immediately it opens up a new box that says, what's your payroll for your subcontractors? And then that contractor looks at it and goes, no, not that. What they'll do is, man, I don't know how much I paid them last year. I don't know what I'm going to pay them this year. I'll just say no for now. So they say no for now. And what happens is when you get through that policy and you get a quote, and it's like, wow, why is it only $500 a year? Because you told it you don't have any employees and you told it you don't have any subs. And so it's just
$500.
Yeah. But what you don't realize is there's an exclusion for subcontractors. So then all the work that you're doing, which is 100% subbed out, is 100% not covered because you told it that you don't have subcontractors. So then what happens is when you have a claim and the insurance carrier says, who did the work? It's your subs that did the work. They deny the claim. That goes back into the why are 90% of claims being denied? Well, it's because 90% of applications are done wrong.
I would be honestly a little worried if I was not a subcontractor, but a contractor.
Yes.
And I got a $500. I'm like, oh, this is enough to cover my project. That math don't math.
It doesn't, but nobody bothers to think that. They just think, well, all these other insurance companies are ripping us off, and I found the one that's not ripping us off. But exactly, the math doesn't. Nobody bothers to think about the math part of it.
Looking at future, I know you brought on, you were talking about bringing on a commercial producer, now personal producer. What do you think is going to be the next level for you guys? Obviously, you built your agency at this point based off of referral and have done quite well. I'll spare the numbers because I think most of our member base knows who you are. I loved what you said at our last conference, but I'll hold that back. But where do you guys see Spencer Insurance Agency going in the next 5 years?
I mean, we have no intentions of doing, at least on the personal line side, anything besides referral based. I do believe if you build it right, like when I started in insurance 21 years ago, even working for somebody else, I had a mentality that nobody else had, which was if I do the right thing by the customer, the money part will handle itself.
Right.
And so I was telling you guys earlier, like my coworkers would say, well, if they were paying $300 a year and I can get them at $220 a year on a 1-year policy, I'm going to make all the commission on that. A lot of those 1-year companies would pay 15%. I would say, well, no, if it's $300, but the best rate is with, let's say, Progressive. Progressive only paid 10% back then. Still does most of the time on a lot of stuff, right? But they would only pay 10%. It was only a 6-month policy. Well, for ease of math, let's say that I'd sold them, let's say the 1-year policy was $1,000, 15% of that's $150. But 10% of $1,000 is $100, but I'm not getting $100 because I'm selling a 6-month policy. I'm getting half that.
Right.
So my peers are getting paid $150. I'm getting paid $50, 1/3 of what my peers are getting paid. But when their customer goes to shop and they find an agent who sells Progressive, they're going to sell them that lower rate, and that customer is going to leave. So with me doing things my way versus the way my peers are doing it in that office, it took 2 years, but my renewals were higher than the other guys who'd been there for 5, 10, 15 years. I was the highest. I had the most renewals out of anybody in the office doing things my way. It did take a little bit. It took 2 years.
Because you kept the retention.
Yes, kept the retention, and it freed up my time to sell new business. These guys were constantly churning their current book over and over and over again. I wasn't. I had done the right thing by the customer, and the money part was handling itself. That was always my philosophy. Do the right thing by the customer, the money part will handle itself. And so if I can build that into the agency to where everybody's doing the right thing by the customer and the money part will handle itself, the referrals will handle themselves. I won't have to advertise because customers aren't used to being treated like this, right? So when they are, they sense they're on the phone with somebody different, and they're going to tell their friends about it.
But this is all coming back to you represent yourself to be the insurance expert and truly mean that.
Yes.
Because I mean, I talk to so many agents, and I constantly find myself telling them, dude, you need to elevate yourself from this. You're fighting in the wrong scenarios, and you have I always start with their license. You took the test, right? Yeah, you got licensed. Yeah, you've gone through the classes. Yeah, you've gone through the CE. Okay, you are an insurance professional. You need to start acting like one. So they used to be, you have your major fives, or your doctor, your lawyer, your all of those people lined up, and your insurance agent was one of those guys, because it's somebody you trusted with to say, hey, this is what's going on in my life. This is what I'm dealing with. This is what I'm running into. How can you help? And they were the guys that would run out there and say, okay, I got you coverage here. Here's how we can protect you. I'll handle this situation with your car wrect. Don't worry about it over here. I got you covered.
Right.
And they were honestly that advocate for you. And it's devolved over time. And I'm seeing more of a resurgence. Thank you. I'm having all sorts of fun today. Resurgence of that type of expertise coming back into the marketplace. We in the industry have commoditized that whole thing. And now you're starting to see the difference between a knowledgeable expert versus somebody who, I ran you through the radar. This is what I saw.
Right. Because I think right now, if you look, so much has become transactional. Right.
Let me speak to that real fast. So I believe, and I'm sorry, Geico. I'm contracted with Geico, and I actually love Geico. But I believe that one slogan, "It's so easy a caveman could do it," might have had a more sinister reason behind it. And I want to expound on that real quick. So if it's so easy a caveman could do it, if you had to call a James to get an insurance policy instead of going online to get it yourself, what were you admitting to yourself subconsciously?
Yeah.
I'm dumber than a caveman.
Yep.
So they want you to do it online. Why? Number one, it saves them money because they don't have to pay an agent, right? So it's a computer system they only had to pay for once. Website-wise, you go in there, you type in your own information. So they don't have to pay an agent to do the quote. Number two, when you don't sell yourself the right coverage,
claims are declined.
They don't have to pay that portion of the claim, right? So if you forgot to leave, you forgot to put comp and collision on your policy, and you have an accident, then your vehicle, is not going to get fixed. If you left off rental car, which is very common, because so many customers over the 21 years I've been doing this have said, I have rental car coverage on my warranty, so I don't need it with you. So, well, that's cool, except for rental car coverage on your warranty only covers your car when you put it in the shop for an insurance for a warranty reason. If you put it in there for an insurance reason, like a hailstorm or you got in an automobile accident, that warranty's not paying for your rental car. Oh, okay, that makes sense. So those people would have left it off thinking that. And for $6 a month, which is usually what it runs to have a rental car, they're now having to spend $60 a day to rent a vehicle. Whereas if they'd had that, they'd be spending $0 a day to rent a vehicle. Okay, so it's again, number one, they don't have to pay. Geico doesn't have to pay an agent. They don't have to pay for claims that when you didn't put the coverage on there yourself. And then number three, since an agent didn't sell you the policy, you can't sue anybody for leaving coverage off.
Yeah, because you're the one who wrote it.
You're the one that wrote it. So they save money in 3 areas by doing that, right?
Right.
And the crazy thing is a lot of times those customers, they don't even know what discounts they're leaving off and things that they qualify for. So if they had called an agent, they would have saved money and gotten the coverage.
And had an agent and a professional right there beside them that they can also hold accountable. Because if you screw it up, your E&O is on the line.
Right.
To follow up with Chris, with what you see next, not just for your own agency, but what do you see next in the industry as a whole? Like what's kind of big coming down the pipeline that either consumers or other agents should even be on the lookout for?
Teleportation. No.
I think insurance, because of, all this heavy advertising that it's just, it's so easy a caveman can do it, or like everybody's, all these commercials, they're all about saving money, saving money, saving money. So they've drilled it into the customer's head that it's just about saving money and beating the insurance company, so to speak, right? If you don't become that concierge agent because here's what most agencies do. They hire producers to sell. They hire customer service people to do customer service. And they tell you, we don't handle claims. Here's the 800 number, call the claims number, right? I do it all. Obviously, I don't handle claims. But what I do is when that customer calls me who does have a claim, I will walk them through, everything from, is it even worth filing this claim? I had one today call me. She got hit, or she hit somebody in the parking lot. Barely did any damage to her car, barely did any damage to the other person's car. And she's freaking out because the other person said they're hurt. And I saw the damage. It was nothing. It was paint transfer. There isn't even a dent in the other person's vehicle. It's legit just paint transfer. It's a parking lot accident. She was just backing up. And so I said, hey, it's not, she said the other person's telling me she's super sore. I'm like, believe it or not, that might actually be possible. Here's why. She saw you coming. You didn't. So you're relaxed when you hit her. She was tensed up when you hit her. Same thing when you go give blood at the doctor's office, right? You tense up, you're going to be sore for a couple of days because you tensed up, right? It's like, so she actually might be sore. I was like, but if you want to keep this off your record, because this is just paint transfer on 2 different vehicles, you probably want to keep this off your record if you can. I'm like, call her and say, this was a really bad day for you because I hit you. This is a really bad day for me because I hit you, right? If possible, what I'd like to do is not turn a bad day into a bad 5 years. And so I called my agent and I was telling him about you feeling sore. And he said, yeah, she probably does feel sore. But why don't we give this a couple of days and see if that soreness subsides? And if it does, will you allow me to turn this bad day and to let it just be a bad day instead of a bad 5 years? Because my insurance is going to go up for 5 years because of this at-fault accident. If this shows up on your record, your insurance, it won't go up with your carrier because once you're already with a carrier, a not-at-fault accident doesn't cause your rates to go up. However, when you go to shop for insurance, everybody's going to re-tier you in a higher tier when you have a not-at-fault accident on your record. So your record will be affected, as well as my record will be affected for 5 years over something that would probably cost me less than $500 to fix on your vehicle. If you are still sore in a couple of days and you do think you might be hurt, then we can file this with the insurance and let them, go do their thing. Just give it 2 days, right? And that's the kind of thing that most insurance agents are. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't handle claims. Here's an 800 number, call them. And then that person's rate's going to go for 5 years. Right. And the other person's going to have something on their record that's going to cause their rate to be higher whenever they go to shop for the next 5 years. And they're not getting that kind of service. So I am sales, I am service, and I am there to walk them through the claims.
Advocate.
Yeah. And the agencies that are just hiring producers, those producers are never going to talk to you again. The ones who are doing customer service, they don't really have a dog in the fight because they're still being paid their salary. So whether you stay or you don't stay, it's just a numbers game, right? Most agencies are just a numbers game. Right. We're going to produce this much. We're going to lose this many customers every year. We're going to, have producers just produce, the customer service people just do customer service, and we're not touching anything to do with claims.
You see the retention rates, obviously. Like I'm sure you've had several customers rather that have been with you 7+ years.
Oh yeah, a lot of them have been 20.
20, yeah, exactly. That's my point because they trust you. They know that you know what you're talking about. They know that they're going to be taken care of throughout their entire processes and all their needs versus some of the other shops that you're dealing with that are just selling in large numbers. They're going to hold on to that customer for maybe 4 years. Yeah. And it's going to be a churn and burn type of deal. And it's honestly, it makes more sense to be slow and steady and build it off of a referral because it just builds and sustains a much greater agency and it has a much better impact on the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Well, and how do you leverage the balance between technology and that concierge approach, right? Because you talk about everything going to online, rate of change happening super fast, right? So How do you balance that?
You used to take emails, now you take phone calls. Is that no?
Right. No, I'm still very old school because like I don't leverage a lot of technology because it's what everybody's doing. Everybody's doing that. And yes,
Well, you use it in your management system, your back office support, all of those types of things.
yes, but not to touch customers.
Right.
And so my customers, I just checked the other day, I have over 2,100 contacts in my cell phone. My customers
That's
have my
a
cell phone.
lot of contacts.
It's a lot of contacts. I spend probably 2 hours selling a policy. When I sell a home and auto policy, it's a 2-hour long conversation. And I am educating the holy crap out of that customer. I am telling them what coverage they had before, what coverage they have now, why they, whatever they were missing.
You're educating the holy crap. I think I'm going to make that.
Holy crap out of this. Yeah. And I tell them at the end of the 2 hours, I'm like, look, and it won't even seem like 2 hours. If you were on the phone with me for 2 hours, you wouldn't even realize you'd spent that much time on there. And in fact, a lot of customers will comment that, like, wow, we've been on the phone for 2 hours. I just feel like I've just been learning so much. I've never heard any of this stuff before. They're like, I'm so thankful I called you. I'm so glad so-and-so referred me to you, whatever, right? Because no agents ever, had this conversation with them. But they know, I tell them at the end of the conversation, I'm like, look, I don't expect you to remember any of this stuff that I've educated you on. All I expect you to remember is that you found somebody who knows what the heck they're doing and they're willing to share that information with you. And if you ever need them, they're there.
Yeah.
And during that 2 hours conversation, I'll tell them I will always do what's best for you, regardless of whether or not it's immediately what's best for me. And most agents don't get that because they think if this phone call to add a car isn't making them money or this phone call to take a payment isn't making them money, then they don't want to do it. By the way, I don't take payments. 96% of my customers are on EFT with a checking account number and routing number. And I tell them, this is about me. It's not about you. Well, I want my points. I'm like, no. I was like, not if you're here. No, not at my agency.
Yeah.
Here's why. I said, I have 1,800 of you. If all 1,800 of you get your account lost, hacked, or stolen, or expired, your credit card lost, hacked, stolen, expired once a year, I get to take 1,800 phone calls to change account information. I'm not going to do it. Your routing number and account number has been the same since the dawn of time. The day you open that account, it's the exact same number it's been. If your debit card gets stolen, your routing and account number does not change. You do not have to, call me and change that. I was like, so I'm sorry. It's not about you. It's about me. I was like, but the reason why you want it that way anyways is because when you need me for important things, imagine you had just been in an accident and I'm ignoring your phone call, and I called you back and said, hey, I'm sorry. I was, taking 7 payments before I called you back. Like, you need me for important things. You don't need me for the unimportant things. So if you will help me offload some of the unimportant things, then you'll be able to get a hold of me when you have something important happen.
No,
very good.
Man, that's awesome. Hey, well, unfortunately, unlike your calls, we don't have 2 hours for the podcast. So we are going to have to wrap up, but it's been an absolutely wonderful chance to get to know you, for our audience to get to know you. But before we do have a wonderful tradition here where we like to share a book, a quote, something that you've read recently that's top of mind that you'd like to share with our audience. So we'll put you on the spot and let you go first.
All right, so I'll give you a quote, and it's from a 4'11" lady named Tommy at Kmart. I worked at Kmart for 3.5 years back when I was in college. She had a customer who was standing in front of her who was irate. He was a guy that we knew would steal all the time. And when he would come back in to return the item, he would get louder and louder and ask for cash. He wouldn't want, because the tradition was we gave him a gift card that you got the lowest sale price in the last 90 days and it had to be on a gift card. You weren't getting cash. And he was just getting madder and madder and louder and louder, expecting that if he got loud enough and mad enough, she would cave and give him what he wanted because he wanted full price for it and he wanted cash, right? And this is the quote. She looked him right in the eye. I'm telling you, this is from probably 1999 or 2000. This is how long ago this was, but it stuck with me. She said, "Sir, I am giving you a list of things I can do. You are giving me a list of things I cannot do. And in the meantime, the list of things I'm willing to do is shrinking." I lost it. I laughed so hard. I'm like, I'm never going to forget that. I'm just sitting there. He sees me laughing. I am dying laughing behind this lady. But yeah, she was a spitfire.
Oh man, that's phenomenal.
Right.
I'm actually trying to look it up because you actually sent it to me earlier. But it's a quote by Warren Buffett. But essentially, if you cannot control your emotions, you cannot control your money. That was one of them. But the other one was essentially, controlling your emotions so that way you can have greater strength and logic in helping those that you're operating with. And I was inspired by some of the things that you've been talking about even today. And that's kind of true. You're saying, hey, I'm going to handle these customers. I'm going to be there to help you. And I'm going to lift you up. And so I congratulate you in that. And that's my inspirational credit to Warren Buffett on that.
There you go. I'll be the oddball out. I'll actually go with the book, and I'll put in a little plug for C12. We had homework reading Inner Excellence by Jim Murphy. If you haven't read it, it's actually a phenomenal read. Great on just make sure you got your head, mind, and heart right, and focused, serving others, and more about the process and less about the outcomes,
There you go.
which fits very well with
Exactly.
what you're doing with your
Very much so.
agency. So.
Mhm.
All right. Well, hey, thanks again for sharing your story. Really appreciate having you on. And thank you, Chris, for being an absolute host with the mostest as always. And until next time, for our audience out there, keep growing and keep ascending.